Hello. Hello, all of my literate people. Hello to all of my illiterate people, all of my learners, all of the lifers. Good morning. Let's get online. I'm about to do my 30 minutes right now because I have a little break. I took a little break from cooking. You know, it's Sunday, January 11th, Sunday. I am cooking. Take my little 30-minute break to read. So I thought I'd just stream. I'll go back on stream later on today. We'll be talking about. I have another series called Starting a Business on Live, where I talk about the challenges that I face. But I will have my friend who is also starting a business. Well, he's not starting, he has a business, and we're going to talk about the challenges that he's facing. And some of those challenges, are across the board, but this is not the time to talk about this. I don't have time to really yap on for too much. We're going to get straight to it. Usually what would happen is I would read this, while I'm on a break. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Yeah. We're at Carrots and Sticks, part 2. We'll just continue reading it. I think last time, before we get started, I think it was a good turnout. I think a good amount of people watched it. I think like 9 views. That's okay. For the first video, I think that's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. A few people tuned in. And I think my interest is as well. When I read this, it will serve as a perfect road trip material for myself. Like I could listen to my own reading and revise or go back to some of these books, which is excellent because sometimes I do take long drives and I do look for materials to listen to. Anyways, you already know the rules. 30-minute on the clock. Chapter 2, Start with Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action by Simon Sinek. Starting my 30 minutes now. Oh. Starting my 30 minutes now. And as always, I'm still practicing reading on live and reading out loud. So this is a new skill. I mean, I think I can read for the most part, but let's get to it, man. Let's get to it. Enough talking. Chapter 2, Carrots and Sticks. Manipulation versus inspiration. There's barely a product or service on the market that... There's barely a product or service on the market today that customers can buy from someone else for about the same price, about the same quality, about the same level of service, and about the same features. If you truly have a first mover's advantage, it's probably lost in a matter of months. If you offer something truly novel, someone else will soon come up with something similar and maybe even better. But if you ask most businesses why their customers are their customers, most will tell you it's because of superior quality, features, price, or service. In other words, most companies have no clue why their customers are their customers. This is a fascinating realization. If companies don't know why their customers are their customers, odds are good that they don't know why their employees are their employees either. If most companies don't really know why their customers are their customers or why their employees are their employees, then how do they know how to attract more employees and encourage loyalty among those they already have? The reality is, most businesses today are making decisions based on a set of incomplete or worse, completely flawed assumptions about what's driving their business. There are only 2 ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. When I mention manipulation, this is not necessarily, I don't know what that word is, pejorative. Pejorative. Let's look up that later, or we can stop now. Let's look at what that means. Pejorative. Expressing contempt or disapproval. And it's pronounced, pejorative. Expressing contempt or disapproval. When I mention manipulation, that is not necessarily pejorative. It's a very common and fairly benign tactic. In fact, many of us have been doing it since we were young. I'll be your best friend is the highly effective negotiating tactic employed by generations of children to obtain something they want from a peer. And as any child who has ever handed over candy hoping for a new best friend will tell us, it works. From business to politics, manipulations run rampant in all forms of sales and marketing. Typical manipulation includes dropping the price, running a promotion, using fear, peer pressure, or aspirational messages, and promising innovation to influence behavior, be it a purchase, a vote, or support. When companies or organizations do not have a clear sense of why their customers are their customers, they tend to rely on a disproportionate number of manipulations to get what they need. And for good reasons. Manipulations work. Price. Many companies are reluctant to play the price game, but they do so because they know it is effective. So effective, in fact, that the temptation can sometimes be overwhelming. There are a few professional services firms that, when faced with an opportunity to land a big piece of business, haven't just dropped their prices to make the deal happen. No matter how they rationalize it to themselves or their client, price is a highly effective manipulation. Drop your price low enough and people will buy from you. We see it at the end of a retail season when products are priced to move. Drop the price low enough and the shelves will very quickly clear to make room for the next season's product. Playing the price game, however, can come at a tremendous cost and can create a significant dilemma for the company. Hold on. For the seller, selling based on price is like heroin, the drug. The short-term gain is fantastic, but the more you do it, the harder it becomes to kick the habit. Once buyers get used to paying a lower than average price for a product or service, it is very hard to get them to pay more. And the sellers, facing overwhelming pressure to push prices lower and lower in order to compete, find the margins cut slimmer and slimmer. This only drives the need to sell more to compensate. And the quickest way to do that is price again. And so the down spiral and price addiction sets in. In the drug world, these addicts are called junkies. In the business world, we call them commodities. Insurance, home computers, mobile phone services, any number of packaged goods. The list of commodities created by the price game goes on and on. In nearly every circumstance, the companies that are forced to treat their products as commodities brought it upon themselves. I cannot debate that dropping the price is not a perfectly legitimate way of driving business. The challenge is staying profitable. Walmart seems to be an exception to the rule. They have built a phenomenally successful business playing the price game, but it also came at a high cost. Scale helped Walmart avoid the inherent weakness of a price strategy, but the company's obsession with price above all else has left it scandal-ridden and hurt its reputation. And every one of the company's scandals was born from its attempt to keep costs down so it could afford to offer such low prices. Price always costs something. The question is, how much are you willing to pay for the money you make? I don't know, zero. I'm not willing to pay nothing. At least not in terms of fiscally. You pay with your time. We always pay. That's the number one thing in econ is, everything costs something. No such thing as a free lunch. Promotions. General Motors had a global goal. Blah. General Motors had a bold goal to lead the American automotive industry in market share. In the 1950s, there were four choices of car manufacturers in the United States: GM, Ford, Chrysler, and AMC. Before foreign automakers entered the field, GM dominated. New competition, as one would expect, made the goal harder to maintain. I don't need to provide any data to explain how much has changed in the auto industry in 50 years. But General Motors had held fast through most of the last century and maintained its price dominance. Since 1990, however, Toyota's share of the US market has more than doubled. By 2007, Toyota's share had climbed to 16.3% from only 7.8%. During the same period, GM saw its US market share drop dramatically from 35% in 1990 to 23.8% in 2007. And in early 2008, the unthinkable happened. US consumers bought more foreign-made automobiles than ones made in America. Since the 1990s, faced with this onslaught of competition from Japan, GM and the other US automakers have scrambled to offer incentives aimed at helping them hold onto their dwindling share. Heavily promoted with advertising, GM for one has offered cashback incentives between $500 and $7,000 to consumers who bought their cars and trucks. For a long time, the promotions worked brilliantly. GM sales were on the rise again. But in the long term, the incentives only helped to dramatically erode GM's profit margins and put them in a deep hole. In 2007, GM lost $729 per vehicle, in large part due to incentives. Realizing that the model was unsustainable, GM announced it would reduce the amount of the cashback incentives it offered. And with that reduction, sales plummeted. No cash, no customers. No cash, no customers. The auto industry had effectively created cashback junkies out of customers, building an expectation that there is no such thing as full price. Whether it is 2 for 1 or free toys inside, promotion are such common manipulation that we often target. Whether it is 2 for 1 or free toy inside, promotions are such common manipulations that we often forget that we're being manipulated in the first place. Next time you're in the market for a digital camera, for example, pay attention to how you make your decision. You'll easily find 2 or 3 cameras with the specifications you need: size, number of megapixels, comparable price, good brand name. Perhaps one has a promotion, a free carrying case or free memory card. Given the relative parity of these features and benefits, that little something extra is sometimes all it takes to tip the scale. In the business-to-business world, promotions are called value added, but the principles are the same. Give something away for free to reduce the risk so that someone will do business with you. And like price, promotions work. The manipulative nature of promotions is so well established in retail that the industry even named one of the principles. They called it breakage. Breakage measures the percentage of consumers who fail to take advantage of a promotion and end up paying full price for a product instead. This typically happens when buyers don't bother performing the necessary steps to claim their rebates, a process purposely kept complicated or inconvenient to increase the likelihood of mistakes or inaction to keep that breakage number up. Rebates typically require the consumer to send in a copy of a receipt, cut out a barcode from the packaging, and painstakingly fill out a rebate form with details about the product and how it was purchased. Sending in the wrong part of the box or leaving out a detail on the application can delay the rebates for weeks, months, or void it altogether. The rebate industry also has a name for the number of customers who just don't bother to apply for the rebate or who never cash the rebate check they receive. That's called slippage. For businesses, the short-term benefits of rebates and other manipulations are clear. A rebate lures customers to pay full price for a product that they may have considered buying only because of the prospect of a partial refund. But nearly 40% of those customers never get the lower price they thought they were paying. Call it a tax on the disorganized, but retailers rely on it. Regulators have stepped up the scrutiny of the rebate industry, but with only limited success. The rebate process remains cumbersome, and that means free money for the seller. Manipulation at its best, but at what cost? Subsection, fear. If someone were to hold a bank, that section, I already read this section. I was thinking about doing a video on it, actually, because I found it to be funny or interesting. Subsection, fear. If someone were to hold up a bank with a banana in his pocket, he would be charged with armed robbery. Clearly, no victim was in danger of being shot, but it is the belief that the robber has a real gun that is considered by law and for a good reason. Knowing full well that fear will motivate them to comply with his demand, the robber took steps to make his victims afraid. Fear, real or perceived, is arguably the most powerful manipulation of the lot. This is a quote. No one ever got fired for hiring IBM, goes the old adage, describing a behavior completely born out of fear. An employee in a procurement department tasked with finding the best suppliers for a company turns down a better product at a better price simply because it is from a smaller company or lesser known brand. Fear, real or perceived, that his job would be on the line if something went wrong was enough to make him ignore the express purpose of his job, even do something that was not in the company's best interest. When fear is employed, facts are incidental, deeply seated in our biological drive to survive. That emotion cannot be quickly wiped away with facts and figures. This is how terrorism works. It's not the statistical probability that one could get hurt by a terrorist, but it's the fear that it might happen that cripples a population. A powerful manipulator. Fear is often used with far less nefarious motivations. We use fear to raise our kids. We use fear to motivate people to obey a code of ethics. Fear is regularly used in public service ads, say to promote child safety or AIDS awareness or the need to wear seatbelts. Anyone who was watching television in the 1980s got a heavy dose of anti-drug advertising, including one often mimicked public service ad from a federal program to combat drug abuse among teenagers. This is your brain, the man's voice said as he held up a pristine white egg. Then he cracked the egg into a frying pan of spattering hot oil. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? I have a lot of questions. But let's not talk about the drug stuff. And another ad intended to scare the hell out of any brash teenager. Cocaine doesn't make you sexy. It makes you dead. Likewise, when politicians say their opponents will raise taxes or cut spending on law enforcement, or the evening news alert you that your health or security are at risk unless you tune in at 11, both are attempting to seed fear among voters and viewers, respectively. Businesses also use fear to agitate the insecurity we all have in order to sell products. The idea is that if you don't buy the product or service, something bad could happen to you. Every 36 seconds, someone dies of a heart attack, states an ad for local cardiac specialists. Do you have rent on? Your neighbor does. Reads the ad on the side of a truck for some company selling a home pollution inspection service. And of course, the insurance industry would like to sell you term life insurance before it's too late. If anyone has ever sold you anything with the warning to fear the consequences if you don't buy it, they are using a proverbial gun to your head to help you see the value of choosing them over their competitors. Or perhaps it's just a banana, but it still works. Subsection Aspirations. Quitting smoking is the easiest thing I've ever done, said Mark Twain. I've done it hundreds of times. If fear motivates us to move away from something horrible, aspirational messages tempt us towards something desirable. Marketers often talk about the importance of being aspirational, offering someone something they desire to achieve and the ability to get there more easily with a particular product or service. 6 steps to a happier life. Work those abs to your dream size dress. In 6 short weeks, you can be rich. All these messages manipulate. They tempt us with the things we want to have or to be the person we wish we were. Though positive in nature, aspirational messages are most effective with those who lack discipline or have a nagging fear or insecurity that they don't have the ability to achieve their dreams on their own, which at various times, for various reasons, is everyone. I always joke that you can get someone to buy a gym membership with an aspirational message, but to get them to go 3 times a week requires a bit of inspiration. Someone who lives a healthy lifestyle and is in a habit of exercising does not respond to 6 easy steps to losing weight. It's those who don't have the lifestyle that are most susceptible. It's not news that a lot of people try diet after diet after diet in an attempt to get the body of their dreams. And no matter the regime they choose, each comes with the qualification that regular exercise and a balanced diet will help boost results. In other words, discipline. Gym membership tends to rise about 12% every January as people try to fulfill their New Year's aspiration to live a healthier life. Yet only a fraction of those aspiring fitness buffs are still attending the gym by the end of the year. Aspirational messages can spur behavior, but for most, it won't last. Aspirational messages are not only effective in the consumer market, they also work quite well in business-to-business transactions. Managers of companies, big and small, all want to do well, so they make decisions, hire consultants, and implement systems to help them achieve that desired outcome. But all too often, it is not the system that fails, but the ability to maintain them. I can speak from personal experience here. I've implemented a lot of systems or practices over the year to help me achieve the success to which I aspire, only to find myself back to my old habits 2 weeks later. I aspire for a system that will help me avoid implementing systems to meet all of my aspirations. But I probably wouldn't be able to follow it for very long. This short-term response to long-term desire is alive and well in corporate world also. A management consultant friend of mine was hired by a billion-dollar company to help it fulfill its goals and aspirations. The problem was, she explained, no matter the issue, the company's manager were always drawn to the quicker, cheaper option over the better long-term solution. Just like the habitual dieter, they never have the time or money to do it right the first time, she said of her client, but they always have the time and money to do it again. That's such a great analogy, because it's true. If you work a 9 to 5, you already know that's true. Peer pressure. 4 out of 5 dentists prefer Trident. Touts the chewing gum advertisement and end in an attempt to get you to try the product. A double-blind study conducted at a top university concluded. Pushes a late-night infomercial. If the product is good enough for professionals, it's good enough for you. The advertising eggs on. With over 1 million satisfied customers and counting. Teases in another ad. These are all forms of peer pressure. When marketers report that a majority of a population or a group of experts prefers the product over another, they are attempting to sway the buyer to believe that whatever they are selling is better. The peer pressure works because we believe that the majority or the experts might know more than we do. Peer pressure works not because the majority or the experts are always right, but because we fear that we may be wrong. Celebrity endorsements are sometimes used to add peer pressure to the sales pitch. If he uses it, we're supposed to think it must be good. This makes sense when we hear Tiger Woods endorses Nike golf product or Titleist golf balls. Woods' deal with Nike is actually credited for putting the company on the map in the golf world. But Tiger has also endorsed General Motors cars, management consulting services, credit cards, food, and Tag Heuer watch designed especially for the golfer. The watch, incidentally, can withstand a 5,000 G-shock. The hell is that? A level of shock more likely experienced by a golf ball than a golfer. But Tiger endorsed it, so it must be good. Celebrity endorsements are also used to appeal to our aspirations and our desire to be more like them. The most explicit example was Gatorade. I want to be like Mike campaign, which tempted youngsters to grow up and be just like Michael Jordan if they drink Gatorade. With many other examples of celebrities' endorsements, however, it is harder to see connections. Sam Waterston of Law and Order fame, for example, sells online trading from TD Ameritrade. But for his celebrity, it's uncertain what an actor famed for convicting homicidal maniacs does for the brand. I guess he's trustworthy? Impressionable youth are not the only ones subject to peer pressure. Most of us have probably had an experience of being pressured by a salesman. Have you ever had a sales rep try to sell you some office solution by telling you that 70% of your competitors are using their service, so why aren't you? But what if 70% of your competitors are idiots? Well, I guess you just add one more idiot to the pile. Or what if that 70% were giving so much value added or offered such a low price that they couldn't resist the opportunity? The practice is designed to do one thing and one thing only, to pressure you to buy, to make you feel you might be missing out on something or that everyone else knows but you. Better to go with the majority, right? To quote my mother, if your friends put their head in the oven, would you do that too? Sadly, if Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods was paid to do just that, it might actually start a trend. I swear. Especially nowadays, I swear. Subsection, novelty, aka innovation. In a major innovation in design and engineering, Motorola has created a phone of first. Reads a 2004 press release that announced the launch of the mobile phone manufacturer's newest entry to the ultra-competitive mobile phone market. The combination of metals such as aircraft-grade aluminum with new advances such as an internal antenna and chemically etched keypad led to the formation of a device that measures just 13.9 millimeters thin. And it worked. Millions of people rushed to get one. Celebrities flashed their razors on the red carpet. Even a prime minister or two was seen talking on one. Having sold over 50 million units, few could argue that the razor wasn't a huge success. By surpassing current mobile expectations, the razor represents Motorola's history of delivering revolutionary innovations, said former Motorola CEO Ed Zender of his new Wonder product, while setting a new bar of future product coming out of the wireless industry. We are approaching that 30-minute mark. We might. No, we're just gonna start back from this. This is one product. This one product was a huge financial success for Motorola. This was truly an innovation of monumental proportions, or was it? Less than 4 years later, Zenner's was forced out. The stock traded at 50% of its average value since the launch of the Razr, and Motorola competitors had easily surpassed the Razrs. Features and functionalities with equally innovative new phones. Motorola was once again rendered just another mobile phone manufacturer fighting for its piece of the pie. Like so many before it, the company confused innovation with novelty. Real innovation changes the course of industries or even society. The light bulb, the microwave oven, the fax machine, iTunes. These are true innovations that change how we conduct business, altered how we live our lives, and in the case of iTunes, challenge an industry to completely reevaluate its business model. Adding a camera to a mobile phone, for example, is not an innovation. A great feature, for sure, but not an industry altering. With this revised definition in mind, even Motorola's own description of its new product becomes just a list of a few great features: a metal case, hidden antenna, flat keypad, and a thin phone. Hardly revolutionary innovation. Motorola had successfully designed the latest shiny object for people to get excited about, at least until a new shiny object came out. And that's the reason these features are more a novelty than an innovation. They are added in an attempt to differentiate, but not reinvent. It's not a bad thing, but it can be counted on to add any long-term value. It can be counted on to add any long-term value. Novelty can drive sales. The Razr proved it, but the impact does not last. If a company adds too many novel ideas too often, that's and time, 30 minutes. Yeah, we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop. We're gonna stop after this page, this last sentence. And novelty. Okay, I don't remember where I left off. They are added in an attempt to differentiate, but not reinvent. It is not a bad thing, but it can't be counted on to add any long-term value. Novelty can drive sales. The Razr proved it, but the impact does not last. If a company adds too many novel ideas too often, it can have a similar impact on the product or category as the price game. In an attempt to differentiate with more features, the products start to look and feel more like commodities. And like price, they need to add yet another product to the line to compensate for the commoditization ends in a downward spiral. We're gonna end on that subsection. We're gonna read this last. I know we're past the 30 minutes, but we're just gonna read until this last subsection. In the 1970s, there were only two types of Colgate toothpaste. But as competition increased, Colgate sales started to slip. So the company introduced a new product that included a new feature, the addition of fluoride, perhaps? Then another, whitening, tartar control, sparkles, stripes. Each innovation certainly helped boost sales, for a while at least, and so the cycle continued. Guess how many different types of toothpaste Colgate has for you to choose from today? 32. Golly. Today, there are 32 different types of Colgate toothpaste, excluding the 4 they make for kids. Wow. And given how each company responds to the innovations of the other, that means that Colgate's competitors also sell a similar number of variants that offer about the same quality, about the same benefits, at about the same price. There are literally dozens and dozens of toothpaste to choose from. Yet, there is no data to show that Americans are brushing their teeth more now than they were in the 1970s. Thanks to all this innovation, it has become almost impossible to know which toothpaste is right for you. So much so that even Colgate offers a link on their website called Need Help Deciding? If Colgate needs to help us pick one of their products because there are too many variations, how are we supposed to decide when we go to the supermarket without their website to help us? Once again, this is an example of the newest set of shiny objects designed to encourage a trial or purchase. What companies cleverly disguise as innovation is a fact novelty. And it's not only packaged goods that rely on novelty to lure customers. It's a common practice in other industries too. Excuse me. It works, but rarely, if ever, does the strategy cement any loyal relationships. Apple's iPhone has since replaced the Motorola Razr as the popular must-have new mobile phone. Removing all the buttons and putting a touchscreen is not what makes the iPhone innovative. However, those are brilliant new features. But others can copy those things and it wouldn't redefine the category. There is something else that Apple did that is vastly more significant. Apple is not only leading how mobile phones are designed, but in a typical Apple fashion, also how the industry functions. In the mobile phone industry, it is the service provider, not the phone manufacturer, that determines all of the features and benefits the phone can offer. T-Mobile, Verizon Wireless, Sprint, AT&T, all dictates to Motorola, Nokia, Ericsson, LG, and others what the phones will do. Then Apple showed up. They announced that they would tell the service provider what the phone would do, not the other way around. AT&T was the only one that agreed, thus earning the company the exclusive deal to offer the new technology. That's the kind of shift that will impact the industry for many years and will extend far beyond a few years of stock boost for the shiny new product. Novel, huh? All right, bet. We're stopping right here. Next session, I don't know if I'll have time to read tomorrow. I have a lot to do tomorrow. And if I do read, I'll probably read at work, which I probably won't be able to stream or read on my lunch break. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to stream another passage. I might read it on my own and then come back and read it on the stream anyways. But anyways, I should be back on stream later on. Thank you for watching. This is part 2. We're still reading part 2 right now. We'll be back later on to finish up.